Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. And today I'm hanging out with Celeste Conowitch from the Venture Maidens and much, much more, actually. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me back on the show.
Well, thanks for coming on. I'd also know it's earlier for you as well.
It's a rousing morning chat. And I'm excited to be here hanging out before I have to get into the nitty-gritty work. So, it's
Yeah.
fun.
So I guess if you want to just jump into the quick, introduction and elevator pitch for people that might not be familiar with your works.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. My name is Celeste Conowitch. I'm a full-time game designer, specifically for tabletop role-playing games. I make a lot of D&D across the internet. I've worked for companies like Wizards of the Coast and Kobold Press, and now I am full-time with 2C Gaming, which is awesome because that's kind of what I'm here to talk about today. 2C Gaming has recently launched a Kickstarter for the Venture Maidens Campaign Guide, which is a campaign setting guide based on the actual play podcast Venture Maidens of the same name, which I am the DM and producer for. So right now, as of now, we launched the Kickstarter a week ago exactly, and we are sitting currently at 72,000 for backing on Kickstarter at this moment while I'm recording this. So yeah, I'm just here to talk about the book, tell you a little bit more about it, answer any questions, because boy, I'm so proud to be working on this book from both, of course, like it's a dream, right, as a DM that your world is going to get published in a book, and then the fact that I've been a full-time game designer and I'm the lead designer on this book and have the know-how to bring it to life. This project means the world to me, and I'm really excited to just even be here talking about it.
Yeah, it's very personal, right? Like at
Just
this
a
point.
bit. It is sort of like my dream project. So, yeah.
So first of all, congratulations,
Thank
and
you.
this is super exciting. This is your first Kickstarter?
So I did do a small Kickstarter about a year ago. I kickstarted with my friend Neil, the Ultimate Guide to Hair, which was a very funny, fun, silly like D&D expansion all about hair, like I had magic items that are like wigs of
Yeah.
power and hair themed classes and spells. So that was a small Kickstarter that kind of tested the waters for us on like how Kickstarters worked, and I'm really glad I had that experience running it before coming to something like the Venture Maidens Campaign Guide, which is a huge project and much bigger in scope than that small Kickstarter I ran before.
Oh, you're an expert now.
Oh yeah. Let's just say I'm really, really glad that Venture Maidens, as a business, teamed up with 2C Gaming to help make this book a reality. Because 2C Gaming has run 13 successful Kickstarters, so having their knowledge and experience to bring this project to life has helped so much
Yeah,
across the board.
they're good people, even if one of the owners is soulless.
Oh no, which one are you talking about, Ryan,
Of
my fellow
course,
game
of
designer?
course. Everyone knows gingers don't have a soul.
Oh my god! I'll tell him you said that immediately after. I'll be like, "Oh my god."
Ryan is good people. I've had him on the show a few times, and I've had the pleasure of meeting him in person a couple of times as well. I usually stop by their booths at conventions, when we did that sort of thing
Yeah,
to
yeah, the
chat with
old,
those
the
guys.
before times, yes.
Yeah, the before times.
Yeah, no, Ryan is good people, and he's going to be doing a lot of writing for this book, which is fabulous. I love working with Ryan on projects. We have our like tiny little, it's just the two of us as the full-time game designers for 2C Gaming. So it's fun getting in a room to design things and duke it out. Um, so,
We we've also launched a few hair products as well.
oh
Every
yes.
every April for the last 3 years, we've launched uh, hair based D&D products.
That's amazing. People love it. It's fun. It's funny. And sometimes, you just want a little whimsy in your games. So
The
there's a
the
place for that.
the first one was beardomancy. The second one was hairable ideas.
See, you would be right at home in the Ultimate Guide to Hair.
Yes, yes,
All of this.
absolutely. Well, you know what? So my wife, likes dyeing my beard and my
Cool.
hair because I look like 20 years older than I
Hmm.
actually am. Um, so that's been a concession over the years
Yeah.
of the beard, is her being able to color it. But we don't necessarily put our videos out in the order we film them.
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, it's like different shapes, different colors,
Oh,
different
wow.
lengths on the hair and the beard, and people would question that in the comments.
What's
I'm
going
like,
on
oh, it's
here?
just beardomancy. So eventually, we decided to kind of like take up the mantle from the old Dragon magazine April Fools tradition, and I don't know. I think we're done with hair for now. I don't know where we're gonna go next.
Very cool.
But yeah, so we've got hair themed uh, character subclasses for all the classes and
Yeah.
magic items, and you know, you may even encounter the hair suit horror from the hair dimension.
Oh, cool. Yes. Yep. We had a lot of really cool hair themed magic items. That actually just went up for sale on Drive Through RPG. So if you want more hair to complement your nerdarchy hair
You can get it.
stuff,
Yeah,
you can go to Drive Through RPG, look up the Ultimate Guide to Hair. It
that's
was a really
awesome.
good time to put out that book.
What can people expect from the Venture Maidens? Like, what are like kind of like some of the selling points in like why people might want to play in this campaign setting versus maybe Forgotten Realms or Ebron or
Yeah.
something different?
Yeah, so when we were making, we made the decision to make a campaign guide. So the Venture Maidens Campaign Guide. It was really important to us to make a book that was going to be useful and fun for anyone to use, even if they didn't know anything about the show or the world of the show. So a lot of this book has player options and dungeon master options and magic items and monsters from the world. So real like usable pieces of the world of Venture Maidens to communicate, some of the myth and lore. And of course, we do also have a chapter that covers like the setting guide and the locations if you do want to set a game in the world. But the world of Venture Maidens, so it's in this place called the Plains, which is this map behind me. So the plains are a the material plane is basically struggling to stay civilized and together because other planes of existence, in particular the Feywilds, are constantly threatening to pour into reality. The Fey in this world play a very, very active and aggressive role in the world, as do the gods. So the gods are very much like, living, breathing people who show up, make a whole lot of trouble for everyone to get what they want. So it's very like Greek inspired. The way the gods are in Greek mythology is in this world. So the gods are constantly causing chaos. The Fae are constantly threatening to cause chaos. And basically, there are so many powerful forces that are constantly trying to define your fate for you, your destiny for you. And only the most powerful, the most tenacious of heroes can forge their own fate. So those are the kind of stories that you can expect to tell in the Venture Maiden setting, and those power plays and those politics form a giant role in the world and the setting.
So it's kind of like a tug of war between the Fae, the gods, and
And
yeah,
mortals who are just trying to do their best
yeah, yeah.
all the time. Yeah, so we've got a lot of really cool like lore that's kind of present in the world that shapes a lot of the character options. Like for example, once again inspired by Greek mythology, the Titans were these beings who created the world. They're these grand makers and shapers, and they made the gods and they made mortals. And so the gods came along and were like, we don't like people above us. So they like mass slaughtered most of the Titans and kind of took everything over. So now we have a couple of Titans that are like hidden throughout the world
Yeah.
and trying to like reclaim their place. So they're always using heroes and adventurers to try and like make the world safe for them to come out again. So like that's our one of the subclasses that we have in our promo document that you can get on the Kickstarter right now is a new warlock patron, which is backed with a Titan. So that's cool. You get some powers of like ultimate creation when you sign up with this Titan to try and help them come back into the normal world.
You need those sweet, sweet powers to entice those.
You do. You need those
These
sweet powers.
warlocks.
Like, hey, please help me. I'll give you like the first power is like you get a shard of creation, which is literally like this piece of power that can become any like small object. And at later levels, you can transform that into like an artificial apprentice version of yourself that can help you do tasks and like run around in combat. So it's a lot of cool stuff. The peak ability there is yeah, the Curse of Unmaking, which is you can literally rip the material of someone or something apart. So very cool stuff.
I hate when that happens.
Hate when I start to unravel from reality.
Yeah. So is
Always
one
a
of your
mess.
players playing that subclass?
So for campaign 2, so what's fun is that a lot of what we're developing in this book now is going to feature very heavily in our campaign 2. So actually campaign 1 just wrapped up the finale last night after 5.5 years of playing the same campaign. So we're taking like a couple months break, and then we're going to dive into campaign 2, and you are going to be seeing a lot of the subclasses, and like the heroic destiny mechanic that's new in this book is going to be a big part of campaign 2, and the monsters. And so we haven't seen these classes in play yet, or these objects in play yet, but it's going to be, as we're writing the book, we're actually establishing, you know, bones for that game that we're going to see, which is a really cool experiment on both sides.
And what level did the characters end at for the
We
first
ended
campaign?
at 17.
Okay. Nice.
So and our plan is like we're gonna have, you know, legacy games, so all the characters lived through the finale, which is amazing. So they're all still alive at level
Yeah.
17. So our plan is like for live shows or special events, we're gonna revisit those original characters and continue to, you know, tell their story up to level 20 every once in a while. So
It's really hard to really kill a 17th level character anyway.
I got close. I got close last night. But yeah, and it is a whole party of them too. Like level 17 is wild.
Well, I was thinking like, yeah, you can definitely take them out. But if as long as the wizard or sorcerer or somebody with a wish spell is left, then you can bring them back.
Oh, we have Kathleen, which is Katie, in the chat. One of our venture maidens. Hey, Katie. She's saying that was the coolest big bad fight ever last night. That's very validating. Thank you.
Nice. And when does that go up?
So we streamed it on Twitch, so
Okay.
it is available there for folks to see at the Venture Maidens, and I will be getting that up on YouTube later today. So yeah, if you want to check out that finale, I did a lot of some fun mechanic stuff with D20 pools and extra damage dice, and that was a lot of fun. So
Nice. So the finale, I can only imagine this is something you've been working up to for a while.
I mean, 5.5 years of playing the same game.
So
Yeah.
when they finally fought the final big bad, like they knew who it was.
Sort of. There was a twist at the end. So I mean,
Okay.
we kind of had this villain that we were establishing through that you know, through the campaign. And when it came down to it, basically there was this choice to side with this person, to hear what they had to say and then side with this person, or to hear what they had to say and then decide to, you know, take them out and end it. And I won't give away what happens, but some very
Yeah.
interesting choices were made. So it was cool. We had some twists, some threads of fate, if you will, that went a different direction.
Now, is that a weekly series, monthly series,
So we do
bi-weekly?
that bi-weekly. So every
Okay.
other Wednesday evening for 5.5 years, we've been streaming this game. And then what we do, we take those episodes that we've streamed and we convert them into podcast episodes. So I clean them up, I do the audio editing, and then we release every other Sunday.
So that sounds like 130 some sessions.
Yeah. So we ended 100 episodes, but we have a lot of bonus episodes and all kinds of other stuff in there. But the main campaign, yes. And of course, our episode 100 is 3 parts. But I was determined to end at 100. So we just did episode 100, part 1, part 2, and part 3. Because we're going to do it in 100, I promised.
No matter how many parts it takes.
No matter how many parts episode 100 is. But we did it.
That's funny.
No one can tell me different.
No, when the math doesn't make sense, just change the
It
math.
just changed the math. This is a fantasy game.
Nice. Uh, so that's got to be satisfying to finish a campaign like that.
Yeah, it's campaign endings are always so hard because you want to end the story in such a way that all of your players and you feel like, you achieved something. Like you really, you wrote the book and you can close it and feel good about it. But you also have to make it so, because this world is going to continue, the setting. I mean, campaign 2 is set in the same world, just with different heroes. So, you really have to feel like the story continues or can continue. So it's interesting to find that balance, but I think we did it. I'm walking away from that finale like, yes, we
Yeah.
nailed it, which is really good to feel as a dungeon master.
I played for like probably like 20 years before we finally finished a campaign.
Yeah,
Not
it's
saying we didn't play the same campaign for 20 years and finished it. I'm saying like
yeah.
I played that long before we had campaigns that actually came to an end and finished.
It's rare.
Yeah.
It's rare to have a party that has that kind of follow through. I mean, also that's so many years, like so much has changed, in 5.5 years. All of us, we started in our early 20s. So a lot has changed between that and where we all are now.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think the fact that Venture Maidens has gone on this long and we have reached this finale and we are prepared to do campaign 2 is kind of a testament to why this book is doing so well, why this Kickstarter is rocking it, because it's so clear, I think, to everybody who sees this project, how much we love it and how much all of our chips are on the table and we're holding nothing back. And I think people really appreciate that about us and the project.
Yeah, like have you had many campaigns before this one finish?
Yeah, so I in high school I ran a campaign that lasted about 2 years, and I was able to bring that one to a close. And then before that, I ran a 3-5 game that was also about 5 years, and we managed to finish that. And then, of course, I've had other games, other seasons that I've been through shorter campaigns and ended. So I think I'm getting pretty good at making finales at this
You're much
point.
better at D&D than us.
It's just, there was something, it's like a switch occurred. I think when I started doing full-time game design, when I really had to start thinking about, story arcs and modules and writing satisfying adventures, that I really realized how important endings are for things. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, of course, we've been playing this game for 5.5 years. We love it. Our audience, they're like, no, please don't like end this, or these characters, even our players are like, wait, why are we ending it? And it's like, but at the end of the day, you need to end a story to make it a complete thing. It can never be the most perfect version of a story unless it ends. And one of the best feelings in the world, I think, is like when you finish a really great book and you read that last page and you close the book and you're like, God, I wish there was more. But also like, wow, that was such a good book. Right. And I think part of that experience is that it has that ending, that bookend. It makes it extraordinary instead of just good.
When you started, is that when you said like I know I'm going to do 100 sessions?
I had no, I had no idea. I had no idea how long it was going to take, but we were getting closer to 100. It was somewhere, I think, around episode 80 that I was like, all right, it's coming up. Like, this is going to be the end. Like, I can sense it coming. And as we got closer to 100, I was like, oh, that'd be nice. That'd be really nice to end on
Yeah.
100 episodes. So, yeah.
Because for us, it was very specific, like how we got to a point where our games started having finishes and completing. Like a lot of our early gaming, it was like drawing short straws as to who was going to GM, and
Right.
a lot of forever DMing going on. So people would just like get burnt out and bored, and we would game like every weekend, and and it was always very open ended. Like, hey, we're just gonna play, and I think like that's the death of every campaign and group I've ever been with. It wasn't until we were like, oh, we're going to run this campaign to
Yeah.
this completion that they started all finishing.
Yeah.
And and we also like we really don't do it anymore where anyone kind of like runs every week for like a really extended time. Like now, like on the channel, we'll run 12 session arcs from a from one GM, but then they're done, and then someone takes over, and it's like a year before they're going to be GMing again. Um,
Yeah.
and then our in person, or well, used to be in person games, or but our home groups, it's like we rotate between three different GMs, and like so it's only really once a month that we're playing those games.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
little things like that made a huge difference for us gaming.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great model to follow. People are constantly asking me, like, hey, like, how do you have games that run this long? Like, I
Mhm.
struggle to find games that run this long. Most people are like, what? Or like, how do you have a podcast that runs this long or a live stream that runs this long? And always my number one advice is like, look at your schedule. Because we play every other week. I think weekly is too much. It's too much stress on anyone. We all have real lives that we're trying to handle, and like as much it's fun as it seems to play every week, like that's just too much. So switch to every other week is always my number one advice. And then I say shorten the length of your games. We only stream for an hour and a half every other week, which is like, whoa, what?
Yeah,
It seems like not a lot of time at all. But we are also streaming it live and then we're recording it. So like it's a lot of stress in that hour and a half. And it also kind of keeps the pace up in terms of, so, when you only play for an hour and a half, you don't want to spend your time like browsing around in a shop or having conversations with a random NPC you find. You want to jam pack that hour and a half with like an awesome combat or like, make stuff happen, like make moves in the world. And that's really great. And, an hour and a half every other week, that's a very reasonable time request of a group of, busy
yeah.
adults.
It's
So
the length of a movie. It's perfect.
yeah. And I know I fall asleep during most movies. So, let's keep it like let's keep it tight. So that's what I always suggest. Shorter games and spread it out.
Yeah, our stream games are 2 hours, and
2 hours is a good time
like
to.
also too like anyone I ever talked to about streaming, they all say the same thing. At 2 hours,
Yeah. Yeah.
your viewership drops anyway. So it's like, yeah, why would you ever run something beyond two
I
hours?
try every opportunity I get. I try to like be like, hey, streamers, like
Yeah,
stop running these 3, 4, 5 hour games. It's so long and
yeah.
nobody can sit down that long.
No, it was funny. Like, I was talking to someone, and they were invited to try out a game, and it was being streamed. They're like, "Oh, cool! This sounds like fun. I'll do this." And then they got there and they played, and it was a 5 hour session.
No, I would
That
just leave. I would like go for a break and then be gone.
is a long time. That is a long time.
That is,
And as I get older, it's like with like now, like our home games that are now online, like we get together from 6 to 7 ish, and then the games go to 10 or 11. I mean, we went crazy. I think we went crazy, and I ran one until midnight. But it was the first time I ran that game, so I really didn't have
yeah.
the
Yeah,
feeling
every
we wanted
once
to.
in a while you can do
Yeah,
like a long game or for something special. And it's also different too. Like when it's a home game, you can do a 5, 6 hour block because you're getting up and you have food and you have time to like chat in
yeah.
between. But when you're streaming, it's like you're all in the chair and like,
It's a show. You're
have to be
on.
plugged in. Yeah, you have to be on. So yeah, streams longer than 2 hours. I've just started saying no to any game longer than 2 hours,
Yeah,
unless it's like a charity game. But otherwise, like, yeah, that's about my limit for streaming.
yeah. I had run a series called the Scarlet Sisterhood that ran for 60 some sessions. We did that was a weekly, but again, it was 2 hours. Like it's perfect. Like I know, like in 2 hours, you can put in probably like maybe three encounters between social exploration and combat,
Yeah.
and that'll pretty much take up the time. And I've gotten really good at like going right to that 2 hour mark and being done for the
Yeah.
session and being
Oh,
at a good spot.
Yeah, that's something too. I always say to DMs, I'm like, hey, like respect your player's time. Like if you say you're going to play for 2 hours, you better be done 5 minutes before so they can, laugh about it. And like you can do your
Yeah.
outros in the last 5 minutes. Like learning to respect time and then telling your stories in the time frame that works is definitely a skill that you have to learn, and it's hard to master, but that is something that makes you an exceptional DM instead of just a good DM.
Do you have any tips for people for doing
Uh,
just that?
yeah, I think, don't if you're going to make a big plan for your game, be okay with not doing everything you planned all through the game. Like think about places that would be a good ending. Don't just have like this one spot in mind. Like have it early. Like what happens if they just get to this fight? Like how are you going to end the game in the satisfying way? What happens if they go totally off the wire? How are you going to hook them back into the story for that ending moment? Have these little ending points in mind all throughout whatever your plan is for that game session, because it might surprise you how early you need to do that, because sometimes you also just have to sense the mood, I think, of your players. Like if they're walking into the table and they're really scattered and they had a rough day, and you're probably not going to get a lot done that night, so just pick like one cool thing for that game and just focus on that. Don't be afraid to not do too much in your game, or whatever it is. Just be ready to find that resolution point and also help drive things along. uh I think dungeon masters now, especially new dungeon masters, are really afraid of like railroading their players, which
Yeah.
is good. Like you don't want to railroad your players, but there's a difference between railroading and kind of being like the story shepherd here. So there is a point when you need to step in and you need to have move the action forward. If the action is frozen, sometimes it's on you to find a way to push it forward. Have an NPC show up, have screaming start and a monster attacks, have something happen to move the action along when things are in that lull. And then that way also your players will sense that you want to increase the pace, and then they will push it too. It's definitely an energy give and take.
Yeah, you're a GM after my own heart.
Yeah.
Like when it lulls and you're just waiting for them to do something, that's when something attacks, something blows up, there's a scream, something
Exactly.
needs to happen.
Something needs to happen. And
Yeah.
honestly, like you won't be rushing your players. Most of the time your players will be grateful that, you raised the stakes. It's your job to raise the stakes and to keep action moving. So you have to have those ideas in mind. Like, what if things come to a dead stop? How are you going to fix it? What if, the game session goes off the rails? How are you going to give them a satisfying end anyway to set it up for next time? Um, and something I also like to recommend, this is something I do for writing as well. Know what's going to happen next at your ending. Never end a game when you're like, I don't know, like, I guess we'll just end it there. Um, because that means that next game, there won't be any sense of urgency and they won't know really what's going on. So always know what you're going to do. Have a plan for the next game when you end the session you're currently on. That works for writing too. Know what you're going to say in that next paragraph. So the next day when you sit down to write, you're not like, oh God. So
I,
end in a place where you know what's going to happen next.
I'll meet you halfway. I usually end on a cliffhanger that oftentimes is determined by whatever they've done that session. And
Yeah.
where we are when we get close to the end, and I have no idea what's going to happen the next session. But I've got a week, 2 weeks, a month, or whatever to figure
Yeah.
out what that cliffhanger meant.
Yeah, I mean that's fine too, because at least like they think it means something.
Yeah,
I've definitely done that before too, where it's like, oh my God, and like you see a monster burst through the wall, and they're like, what? And I don't know what the monster is, but like
yeah,
we know there's gonna be a fight. Like, having that call to action or what's gonna happen, it can be as simple as that. You're gonna start with a fight, you're gonna start with a hard conversation, that this is going to happen. That really helps the pacing of an adventure.
yeah. And I like that. I like that aspect. Just also, not only does it get them to like, oh, they want to come back because they want to figure out what that thing was, but it also means you're not starting the next session at a dead point.
Yeah.
That like in a lull, you're starting at a high point they have to then work through, and and then you can manage the peaks and valleys from there.
Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, one of the fun things we're planning to do with the Venture Maidens campaign guide is we're doing DM advice sort of like this in the
Okay.
book. So I'm trying to put together. So this is really helpful to have conversations like this. To hear like where people run into struggles with their games, because I feel like, well, we have the player's handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide, which is supposed to tell you how to play this game. They really don't. Um, we just have like how to build a world and how to do this, and like that doesn't actually help you play the game. So we really wanted in the Venture Maidens campaign guide to give advice and tips on how to run a game like ours. If you enjoy the way Venture Maidens tells stories in the short format, in this episodic format, the way we've built this campaign, there will be lots of helpful advice for you to reference in this book.
So, what is your number one kind of piece of advice that you would hand out to a new GM?
Ooh, I mean, number one, I do always really start with the game sessions, the timing of those. Do every other week, do shorter games, right off the bat, because that'll set you up for success, no matter your experience level. The other thing I like to remind people of is your number one job isn't to be the dungeon master, really. Your number one job isn't to like, make a bomb adventure. It's to make sure everybody has fun. You're like the fun referee. That's your number one job. You are the good times fun party master. So be the party master first, and then be the dungeon master. Because if your players aren't having a good time and it's not a good social experience, they won't come back, no matter how good your story is. So focus more on that and making sure everybody's having a good time and feels comfortable and is having fun. If you've achieved that, it really doesn't matter what your experience level as a dungeon master is. They're going to be having fun.
Yeah, that's solid advice. I feel like it's a game, and we should be having fun. If you're not, why are you even doing it?
Yeah, why are you doing this?
Yeah,
And it shows. I mean, so many actual plays and live streams, they stop because it's just pressure, and it's just like becomes
work.
like a slog. Yeah, it's slog. It's work, um, and it's work that if you're not having fun, you don't want to do it, because it is a lot of work to run an actual play and a podcast and to write a book. It's tons of work. I work so much. um,
Yeah.
but at the heart of it, like, this is so fun, and it always has felt like I'm getting together with a bunch of friends to play a game at the heart of it. So if your games feel like that, you've done it. You're a great dungeon master. No matter how much you've played, how little you've played, how many books you've read, if your players are having fun at the table and looking forward to the next game, you've done it. You've succeeded.
So the next campaign for Venture Maidens, is it going to be focused around the stuff in the? You mentioned it being focused around the stuff in the book and using a lot more of that stuff and putting it in there. But will viewers be seeing new parts of your world?
Oh yeah. So what's really fun is we've really explored kind of the god side of things, and this bastion sort of civilization. We've traveled to a bunch of different locations here and met the cities and like the major players in the government in campaign 1. And for campaign 2, we're really going to be shifting to exploring the Fae and the politics that are happening there. So in this book, one of the coolest chapters we have a native bestiary that we're bringing to the book, where we're covering, we have 7 sovereign Fae courts that are kind of the royal courts that are warring for control of fairy and control of the world. And of course, all these courts are very different. They have different powers, different motivations. And so dealing with them is going to be a major part of campaign 2. So we have like monster stat blocks for them, and we also are doing monster templates for 5e, which is something I'm really excited to do. It's something I've wanted to bring into 5e for a really long time. So basically, any creature in the monster manual can be updated to become a member of one of these Fae courts. So it's going to be a lot of cool fun and chaos seeing what creatures the Fae have ensorcelled or brought into their ranks to deal with our players.
In your world, is it the Feywild or is something else? I don't know if we're
We
allowed to
call
use
it the
that word.
wilds with
Yeah,
a es.
yeah.
So it's just the wilds, and we refer to it a lot as the realms of fairy, with an A.
Yeah,
So, legally distinct Feywilds.
yeah. No, we struggle with the same thing, like, because you want a Shadowfell and you want a Feywild, but they can't be the Shadowfell or the
Hmm.
Feywild.
Yeah, and the realms of fairy, this idea of warring fey courts, summer and winter, Oberon, Titania clashing. Oh, there's my cat. Um, this has been in so much literature and explored in so many fantasy and sci-fi series. It's definitely something, the concept that Wizards does not own,
Yes.
and it's been such a huge part of our world. And I know I love the stories that delve into the Fey courts, and I'm really excited to expand it beyond just your typical, winter, summer, this is the war, having these 7 courts and all of their different motivations and rulers, and it's gonna be really cool to see and interact with all of that drama um, going on, because the Fae are petty and political, and it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, I like Rough, the realms of fairy.
Yeah.
Uh, we were always arguing internally of which term to use.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Fae themselves, right? You can't really pin them down, and it's a
It's
little bit messy. So there's a bunch of different names for it, and that's kind of the way they are.
the way
But
it's meant to be.
yeah. So what's really cool is we're actually going to be releasing a second part of our promo document. So if you go onto the Venture Maidens Campaign Guide Kickstarter page right now, you can download a promo document, which is like 20 pages out of the book. So you can see the formatting we're doing. You can see the level of quality, some of the art we've made, and everything. That includes the subclass, the Titan subclass, the new Heroic Destinies mechanic, which is a brand new thing I've designed for players and DMs to build like heroic character arcs. So that's in there. But we're about to release that second part of that promo, which is going to be about the Sovereign Fae Courts specifically, and include our first set of monster templates so people can see how that works and sort of like the proof of concept. So that's going to be really cool that people can actually start to see the lore of the Sovereign Fae Courts and how we're going to be doing these templates. This week it's going to be dropping. So pay attention for that. It's going to be cool.
People, you're going to want to stay tuned. I was laughing because Spellhawks Press. We have one over here, this fairy terrace with gossamer wings.
Oh, yes.
Would look like with bushy cattail with this model.
Oh, so cute.
It
Oh my
also
gosh.
makes me think of A Bug's Life when the caterpillar turns into a butterfly.
Yeah.
And he's
I
just
love
basically a
the
big
too.
fat caterpillar with these tiny wings.
Oh, so cute. Yep. I mean, yeah, you could put the Tarask into one of the fake courts with our templates. Hell yeah. Do it. I dare you. Back the book and then do it. I dare you.
So seven fairy factions.
Yes. Yeah, so the Sovereign Fae courts, they're yeah, we have some good ones. So yeah, we have, the Withered Court, which is sort of your archetypal winter court. We have the Forest Court, which is actually more focused on like beasts and animals. So like, when you think of like greater animals, like, Aslan or, other talking like sentient animals, that's going to be the Forest Court. We've got the Slithering Court, which is kind of the court of like all the things that creep through shadows. So they're the fairies who don't mind being in urban environments, taking the forms of rats and mushrooms and all this other nasty, slimy stuff. We've got the Blossom Court, which is the court that's all about plant life, and they actually look kind of like living plants, or the nobility are all sort of flower
Yeah.
shaped people. We've got the Sleeping Court, which is the Fae who preside over dreams. And the ruler, of course, of the Sleeping Court is an ancient dragon who's been asleep through all of living memory. The rest of the fairy are like, whoa, that might be the first fairy, but like they're asleep, so that's cool. We're just gonna leave them asleep.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're, not a huge role in the
Something
politics.
about leaving sleeping dragons.
Yeah, leave him. We don't want any of that. So we've got a lot of different factions. We've got the Court of the Winds, which is all like sort of avian bird-like fae. We've just got a lot of interesting stuff that I'm really excited to see in play. I think my players are going to be, because campaign 1 did involve a lot of like having to deal with the politics of the people of the planes, and then having to deal with the politics of dealing with gods. So I think they think that they're like, oh good, okay, we're going to the Fae.
Yeah.
It's gonna be magic, like fun times. But I mean, that's the funny thing, like the politics of the Fae mirror the world of what's going on, just with more power and more
And more convoluted.
yeah, more convoluted, and yeah, even like more powerful magic at their disposal. So haha, got you.
Yeah.
uh,
So were the Titans featured heavily in the first campaign?
they were, yes. So one of the big issue, I think, like there was a choice that had to be made about basically supporting the gods or not, sort of at the end of the campaign, and largely that was because what happened to the Titans, what the gods did to the Titans, kind of came out in the open.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my god, like how can we serve and support these gods that like mass murdered their parents, like
They were
to
kind of shitty, so
control
we still
them?
follow
Like,
them.
oh god, like, and do we have to? Because like what are the gods gonna do like if we just bounce? So it was a big deal. So they got to meet one of the last living Titans, and yeah, it's cool stuff that will definitely have ramifications, their choices in campaign 2, which is super fun. The world has definitely shifted in a major way based on their decisions.
How many Titans are left?
That's spoilers.
How
They
many
think
known
they
Titans are
they
left?
think there's only one.
Okay.
They think there's only one. I will say there are more than one.
Yeah. Well, if they get
Totally.
this book, will they then know that there's more Titans?
No, no. So, I mean, something we wanted to do too with this book, it was really important for me for a campaign setting to make sure that when people play games in the world, they're not inheriting a world that's been like, destroyed and played in by another group.
Mhm.
So, sort of like the map of the world is basically the setting guide before the Venture Maidens had campaign 1 happen, so that any party can walk into the world and cause their own chaos and make these own decisions. I really wanted to make it so I gave people the sandbox that they could do whatever they wanted. I didn't want to give people the sandbox that kids had already played in. So
For NPCs in the world, do you kind of do you follow like the Ebron model, the Forgotten Realms model, or one of your own? So the
yeah, I mean,
Ebron model
the
is
Eberron book was
where,
amazing. I love the Eberron book. Like a lot of, I
yeah,
think the way things are shaped and framed, and the Eberron book also felt really useful, having a
yeah.
lot of like character options and monsters that are very cool. So I
Well,
think,
let me elaborate a little bit. What I
oh yeah,
mean is, in Ebron, all the NPCs are fairly low level in compare, relatively
yeah,
speaking.
yeah.
Where in Forgotten Realms, it's like, why am I dealing with this problem? Where's Dritz at? What's Elements doing?
What's going on here? Yeah.
Yeah, where they're all like super high level. Um, and like Ebron had a really, I like the way they dealt with it because even they're like really well known NPCs, they weren't like super powerful. So like there was a
Yes.
reason for your players to kind of exist in that world and handle and tackle the problems.
Yeah. So what's really fun is that our stretch goal that we hit, I think it was our 50,000 stretch goal, was to add an NPC appendix. So we were just going to do the monster native bestiary if we didn't hit that stretch goal, and now we get to add the NPC appendix. So what we're doing like a wanted dead or alive sort of like hit list,
Okay.
for our for our NPCs. So the most villainous is the wrong word, but maybe the most indiscreet of people to ever trouble the planes. So what's really fun is that we're going to do the NPC stat blocks for the Venture Maidens characters from campaign 1 as part of that NPC guide. But we're also going to see a bunch of major players who have caused havoc across the history of the planes. So most of these are going to be like specific Fae who have come and like raised some hell in the
Yeah.
world. And the plan is definitely to make, from CR1 up to CR20. So it's a range that people could grab any of these people at any point in a campaign and insert them as a villain or build an arc around them. We definitely want to make this really easy for people to use. So I mean, I know me, yeah, as a designer, like, gosh, I get frustrated when I look at a book and it's like, oh, cool, NPC. Oh, they're all CR 14.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I guess I know what level I have to play at. That's so unhelpful. So we're definitely aiming to make a range.
Yeah, it's definitely useful. I enjoy the tiered method when you can kind of pick and choose at what level to use them at. Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes I just feel like it's also like more important for those NPCs that are supposed to be important in the world, but and your players can get to interact with them, but that they're not so powerful that like they wouldn't just go do it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely like one of the huge themes we play with is, power in this world, and like what that means, how it shapes your destiny. So really, yeah, I mean, what does it mean to be in power is, I think, is very different in our setting guide. So having a lot of resources means a lot. Having the approval of the state, or being able to work outside of the state, having a fairy, being part of a fairy court, would make even the lowliest of fairies, give them a lot more power than they would if they were on their own. So there are a lot of factors like that, I think, that come into play. It is, how much firepower do you have, how many allies are at your back, if you do this, or if you kill this person, what the consequences are going to be. All of that are, it's a big deal in our campaign setting. And I think it's fun how the world is kind of built to be destroyed or rebuilt by your actions. It's very modular, I feel like, in that way. It's We certainly saw that over campaign 1. Like, they literally took a whole region of desert and like flooded it by like releasing like an awesome like deific elemental. So they like literally destroyed this piece of the world, displaced people, like they started a whole new, basically, like refugee city. So like things in this world are meant to be broken and shaped, and there are so many different players and forces and factions that want different things, that it's really easy to do whatever you want and deal with the consequences of it.
Which I mean, that's important and fun for the players when they can see they've done stuff and it meant something in the game.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like I think that's the coolest part of D&D, when you feel like your heroes are actually making a mark on the world. Because I feel like too often in D&D we forget that as adventurers we are the extraordinary people in the world. There are no, like, very few other people like adventurers. There is something so special and so powerful about them. They're going to be, one of the only level 10 monks running around the world, or less than 200 or whatever it is. And when you think about that number, like, oh yeah, like, you're extraordinary. You're like superheroes walking around. So when you feel like that and everything you do marks the world, you really are allowed to explore that and feel that you make a difference.
So I see some back and forth in the chat about Randy.
Yeah, we had so Josh Perot from the Taking Initiative podcast guested on the show, I think around like episode 50, when our characters visited the Feywild just for a very like short jaunt. They had to go in and get something, and we had he played Randy, who used to be Brandy, who was a talking horse, and he was hilarious. His character was so fun and so funny. Yeah,
Did he
bring
play the
bring Randy
horse?
back. No, so he was a horse who got transformed by the god of horses, the Fey god of horses, to become a furbolg. So he was a furbolg with very horse-like characteristics that was helping to guide them through the Feywild. It was just fantastic. We've been very lucky to have so many, friends of the show and guest players, and the community has just been awesome for getting Venture Maidens to where it is today.
Nick wants to know if the Furbolg horse is going to be in the book.
I mean, I think he should be in the book. I have to ask him if he's okay with me putting him in the book, but oh yes.
There's only
That
one
would
way to
be
find
amazing.
out. You're just
Come
gonna have
in
to go
here and
over and
back
back.
it, and then sure. Tell 4 friends to buy the book, and then I'll put Randy in the book. No, no, Randy would be an awesome candidate for the NPC codex. And you know what? He probably might make an appearance in campaign 2, since he's from the Feywild. So we'll see.
I don't know. I don't know what horse-like traits are in a person.
Sort of a deep neighing voice, eating lots of fruit, things out of pockets or grass, just bending down to eat some grass.
Like,
Lot it,
okay, yeah, I guess. I mean, because we actually have a property butts up to the back of ours, and they have horses.
Horses
Um,
are so goofy. Like
and
when they're not, like, oh, we're in the middle of warfare.
yeah.
Horses are funny, and like when they flap over, and it was so much fun to see him bring that character to life.
I'm just trying to think. I'm like, well, what do the horses back there do? I'm like, I've seen them run in circles and lay and
Yeah.
roll around on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Just love eating.
Yeah,
They do that weird lip thing.
they do the weird lip thing. Yeah, yeah. For the longest time, we there was a couple horses and a donkey. No, not a donkey. A burro. Are they different? I think they
I
are.
don't
I'm not
know.
sure.
Not sure.
But like, it just showed up one day, and then they like kept it.
Cute.
They found the
Cute.
owner. They found the owner, and the owner's like, just keep it. That's weird.
Okay.
But
Hey, this donkey just wandered over. I guess it's mine now.
yeah, yeah. Otis. Otis the badass donkey.
Yeah,
He was
but
he was my favorite.
hell yeah. Gosh, I'm so excited to play more in the fairy realms, because yeah, characters like that, and animals, and there's just so much cool stuff that's been done with the fae, in books and comics and everything, and I'm just I'm thrilled to bring that into a game. And I think people are really hungry for it, for more fae stuff.
Oh yeah,
Um,
in the Monster Manual is definitely one of the weaker.
yeah, there
Um,
are only 12,
yeah,
only 12 fey creatures in the monster manual. So I'm really excited that this book will help people, like, because you can put these templates to make anything a fairy, um, which is super fun. Because also, like, why wouldn't a troll belong to a fairy court? Why not? Why wouldn't a lich want to rule a fey court? That seems like a pretty good idea. Make an undead fey lich. Horrifying. It's good. It's good stuff.
I'm kind of like I'm kind of fond of the more Scandinavian trolls, and they feel a
Yeah.
lot more like fayish.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so much cool stuff. And I think the combinations of what people will be able to do with this is going to be really fun um,
Are you
across the
looking
board.
forward to maybe having someone else run you through your world?
That would be the dream, right? Oh God, I really want to see people take this book and like run live streams, or like make a podcast playing in the world of Venture Maidens that isn't, the Venture Maidens. Like that kind of support would be incredible. I hope people play this in the setting. I hope people, or they don't play in the setting, they use the tools. They're like, hey, like, I love this subclass from Venture Maidens, and they'll tell us about it. They'll pop in the Discord or on my Twitter page, and I want to hear that people are using this. And gosh, that's the dream. That's the dream.
No, absolutely. I think one of the coolest thing about creating and designing things is seeing what other people do with them.
Yeah. Gosh, I hope so. I hope so.
So, what is the magic level in your world?
Yeah, so our setting is definitely high fantasy. So there's lots of magic playing around in the world. I mean, the plains themselves. So the capital city is called Phelan, and it's like a very progressive city where they have like full-on mage universities, and basically anybody can apply to learn to be a wizard.
Yeah.
So it's very much a part of the culture and the setting. Creating these magic items and being trained by to be a state mage is a thing. Uh, so lots of magical stuff going on. I think it's just more fun that way. I prefer my fantasy with a lot of magic
Yeah.
in it.
And how large is the pantheon you use?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. So in the planes, like the government system, they're ruled by like the primary race is they're derived sort of like the Eladrin. So they're descended from the Fae, and in their lore, basically, once upon a time, they all were Fae, But then two Fae stepped out, which they call like the mother and the father. They came out of the Feywilds and decided to not be Fae anymore. So they made the this people and this land, and they're like, no, let's be civilized and like carve out our world here. And so in their system, they kind of do have this, like the mother and the father, you know, are these primary religious figures. But other religions are absolutely allowed to be in the world. They're not going to be featured as much, sort of like, you know, America and like Christianity, that sort of thing. Like, yes, you can be of other faiths. Is it easier if you prescribe to ours? Yes. But, you know, so I wanted anybody to be able to walk in with any gods or pantheons that they liked or enjoyed and had a place in that world. Um, and then, of course, since the gods are so present, if you have like, you know, a strong connection as a player to, you know, Moradin or, you know, something from Greyhawk or something from Forgotten Realms, it's really easy to put them in this world and make them a full presence.
So, will you be doing avatars for your deities?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. The finale campaign was very much about an artifact called the Avatar, which was a way for somebody to take deific power and put it into this like immortal suit of armor thing. Um, but yeah, the idea of avatars and, you know, moving around, the gods choosing their champions to act on their behalf is definitely a big thing in this world.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, so, what about named spells?
Named spells. So I mean that is a tricky one for sure. We're probably so we actually just hit our stretch goal that is going to allow us to expand a whole new school of magic into
Okay.
this book. So the school of sound, which is going to be, so the majority of the new magic spells are going to be part of that school. Um, I haven't decided yet if I want to make named spells, or I love the idea that I've had wizards do this. I play a lot of wizards, where they just put their name in front of things. So now it's, you know, Melody's tiny hut
Yeah, yeah,
instead
yeah.
of, you know,
Just
Liam.
claim ownership of it.
Yeah, like, oh, like you've never seen this. You don't know. I don't know who this guy is. It's my version of the spell. So I'm on board for people to make that, keep that fluid, um, and name their own spells. Why not?
Yeah, I was just curious if you had any like legendary wizards that maybe have passed around those spells.
I mean, we had one that we had to deal with in the finale called Valerius. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll put a Valerius spell in there. That's a good idea.
Well, I
Maybe
know
bring.
like one of the things that kind of I got excited with. I don't know if you saw the new UA yet
Oh yeah, the
for
one that dropped yesterday,
yesterday.
right? Yeah,
Draconic
I haven't had the chance
options,
to read through it, but
but they've got like a bunch of, well, not a bunch, but I think there's like 4 or 5 named spells.
cool.
And I was like, oh, where are they going next? And then I
You're
saw
these
Fizzban.
people.
I saw the name Fizzban, and I was like maybe they're doing Dragonlance.
Dang it!
But then
I
I
have a
also
whiz
saw
band in my
Icing
world.
Death, and I'm like, that's Forgotten Realms.
Oh yeah, that is. Yeah. Well, it's cool. I mean, they're starting to, you know, branch out, like, you know, seeing Tasha pop up, and, you know, we're getting little bits of Greyhawk, you know, with our seafaring adventures. I'm really curious to see what the Greyhawk deities have always been my favorite. So
Yeah.
every time something comes back and I'm like, ooh.
I
Ooh.
am like the least interested in seeing Greyhawk or Dragonlance, or because
Yeah,
they're
because those
like,
settings are so similar.
yeah,
It'd be cool to see something wildly different.
something new, or like at least um with Dark Sun and Planescape and Spelljammer, like they have wildly different rules,
Yeah,
and they're drastically different from your standard fantasy games.
yeah. Well, I mean, what's really exciting is to be here, like being part of making a setting that is so
Yeah,
different. And really, you know, with 2C Gaming and Venture Maidens, by our powers combined, we are producing a book that absolutely rivals anything that Wizards of the Coast has put out. You know, we're looking at a 200-page high quality print full of gorgeous original art book. So it's just really thrilling to be on this wave of making setting books that are what people want, because I feel like we're getting bored with
yeah.
what Wizards has put out. So it's really cool to be here and to see third party companies rising to the challenge and really delivering what people want for their games.
It sounds like the gauntlet being thrown down.
But
Not,
it is, because we're pushing as third-party companies, and Wizards is going to see that, and then they're going to make better products, and it's going to be this really awesome thing that causes just really great stuff to get made, so everybody can enjoy what's coming out on all sides. It's a really cool time to be in design and to be learning to play D&D.
and also I feel like as small designers, we have more freedom to get
We
weird and
do.
do whatever
Yeah,
we
we can
want.
experiment. We can test the bounds,
We don't have to sell a million copies, and,
We don't.
to make
It
a
would
profit and
help.
stay in business. Yeah, it wouldn't be terrible, but we don't have to.
It would really help us make more stuff to sell, but it is, I love that I can bring monster templates into 5e. I can invent a new school of magic. I can make subclasses that explore mechanics that wizards can't quite bring to the table. A lot of what we're doing here is, yeah, it is new, but it works, and it's going to be great for people to be able to explore, other ways that you can play D&D.
For sure. We are up on the hour mark. Final
Oh
thoughts
my
before we
gosh.
head on out?
Yeah, I mean, just thank you so much. Please, everybody here, do go to Kickstarter and check out the Venture Maidens campaign guide. The first week just wrapped up, so that is going to be going towards May 6th is going to be the end of the Kickstarter. So if you liked anything you heard, get over to that page. Check it out. We have PDFs available for just $18. You can get a full PDF of this, $45 for a hardcover. And then all the way up to where we released a second run of collector's boxes because our first run sold out in the first like 6 hours.
Wow.
So those are going fast, though. I think we only have
Yeah,
30 left right now. So if you really want a collector's box, do it now, because they're going to be gone after this run. But yeah, and for everything else, make sure to follow Venture Maidens everywhere on social media at Venture Maidens, for new news, updates, cool stuff, to get notified when that document comes out.
for
Yeah.
sure. And as always, in the description, you can find those links. So click away. Thanks for coming on again. I really appreciate it. And until next
Yeah.
time, everybody, stay
Yeah.
nerdy.
Thank you.